What's
All
going
right,
on?
Chris.
Hello,
It's
hello, hello,
Friday.
hello. It is not Friday. It's
It's
pretend
not
Friday.
Friday. Oh no.
Yeah, it's pretend Friday. But all the same, welcome everyone to On the Rocks, the show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent stuff, mostly as it relates to e-commerce, but not only. I'm Chris Eno. He is Jay Kimmelman. And last time we talked, it was a long time ago. Not that long. It was 2 weeks ago. But we talked about making touch points for your marketing efforts. We talked over reviewing current performance, evaluating your marketing channels, and things you can do for going forward. This week, we're doing a little more short-term reflection rather than looking back at what's happened over the past year. We're going to talk about what happened last week while we were gone. What does that mean? That means we're going to talk about Xerocon, my first conference experience, all the cool stuff that Jay was doing, and all the cool stuff that Zero's doing. But first, like I said, it's been a while, so we got a lot of things that have happened. So I'm not really sure where to start. I'm not going to start with the thing that I want to start with. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to save it for a little bit. Jay, I
You
have a
got to get
question for
warmed
you.
up before you jump in.
I gotta get warmed up, right? I gotta get warmed up.
For
Gotta
sure.
gotta let the escape hit me here.
Yeah.
So so did you know, Jay, that there's a coalition against scam and scheme threats?
I
I
did
had never
not
heard of
know
this.
that.
Yeah, I had never heard of this either, but I'm so excited to learn about it. I don't really know. They it sounds like your guy Danny Warfel. He was calling the troops, and the AICPA joined in on this the coalition against scams and scheme threats to do
Yeah.
the same thing that we've talked about several times here, and that's to advise people not to take TikTok tax advice. So
Come
don't
on. Of
take
course.
TikTok tax advice. Yeah. The AICPA jumped along with this coalition against scams and scheme threats to join the fight against misinformation. So I think that's actually kind of great to see, and I'm hopeful that that does something. Right, we'll see how it goes. Um, I as I was reading through the news this week, there was something that I just never expected, never in a million years, and that is that that FinCEN, the group that we talked about a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
they ran a TV ad about BOI reporting. I can't believe it. I haven't seen it. I want to go Google it and see what it looks like. But they ran a TV ad. I just is surprising. But obviously, there's something like 30 million businesses or something that have to file these reports, and I guess they're just not doing it timely enough or something. So they wanted to get out. I don't know if it was on Golf Channel or what channel. Like I'm not sure who hits the most people.
Interesting.
But I did see that there was a report about this.
So, interestingly enough, I filed a BOI this week.
Did you?
I did.
How'd that experience go? Did you
It
need an ad?
was it was okay. I mean, it didn't take a long time. It was
Yeah,
fairly innocuous.
that's good.
There are five sections to it, and the number one thing is, if you're going to do it, I believe you have to have. You don't have to have a login.gov ID. I don't think. I
All right.
created a FinCEN ID for myself because I have multiple businesses. For that, I
Yeah,
did log in and create that FinCEN ID after I logged in through my login.gov account.
yeah,
And basically, I put in my name, my address, my social security number, my driver's license number because it wants proof, and uploaded a picture of my driver's license.
yeah. Sure.
And it saved it and gave me my ID number. Well, that saves you time when you're doing the BOI report because if you have multiple businesses and let's say you're the sole shareholder, you have to do not only the business information where you have to put your information in, but then you have to put the beneficial owner in and you do that. So you have
Oh,
to do
yeah.
all
Okay.
of that information twice in it. It still only
Yeah.
took about 15 minutes to do it, but now I only have to drop my FinCEN ID in twice, and much easier.
Good.
What it was
Well, that's
was
great.
not a big deal. It really wasn't.
That that's great. I'm glad to hear that, and hopefully that's what the ad said. It was, hey, this isn't as big of a deal as you think.
Yeah.
Do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be able to do it in 15 minutes. Um,
For
that
sure.
seeing that that FinCEN ran this ad actually reminded me of a LinkedIn ad that I keep hearing on Spotify as I'm listening to podcasts, because I'm not on Spotify Plus like a true clown. Um, but the ad is like a little girl talking about her dad, and and the and the ad says, my dad, he like came to class and was talking about how he loves return on ad spend. He loves calculating it, and then he said separately that he was a ROAS guy. And I was like, man, LinkedIn, you need to like look at this copy a little bit better. Like, do you even know what you're doing right now? Like, it's the same thing. Oh, I'm so disappointed at LinkedIn, because
That
the
is
commercial,
funny.
because then it's like, and because like all her little kid friends are making fun of her, right? And it's like, not everybody understands, e-commerce or whatever it is that's on the LinkedIn ad. But LinkedIn clearly doesn't either. Come on, LinkedIn, be better. Um, so so I heard this commercial, and it made me. And when I read about FinCEN doing it, it made me think about that too. And I thought it was
Yeah.
worth bringing up here. So pretty
Yes.
funny,
Yeah.
right? Our Danny and the crew, they were a little busy doing some other things. There were two other IRS updates that I saw this week. We got a new and improved. I think it was improved. I'm not really sure. Version of the 1099 DA reports. That's if you don't remember, those are the 1099s associated with digital assets, DA, that they're going to start requiring in a couple years. So these they released the first draft a little while back, got some feedback on it, I guess, and have made some updates and released a new draft. So not in final, but still out there. So again, if you've got digital assets, be aware that you're going to have to do some reporting on them going forward. And certainly, if you're like a broker in some way of digital assets, know that you're going to have to do some reporting around this as well. And then one other thing, and they may have done this a couple weeks ago. This may have already happened, but the IRS has reopened the voluntary disclosure program for those like problematic ERC claims. So where you can say, actually, you know what, I shouldn't have taken this money, my bad on that. Let me give it back to you, that kind of deal. So the IRS doesn't go after you the way that we've talked about several times here for going forward. So again, if you took out an ERC and you're maybe uncomfortable that you should have done it and you don't want to get busted, the voluntary disclosure program is back open, so you can take advantage of that if you need to. Now, before we move to the e-commerce area, it's time, Jay. I'm now warm. So normally on this podcast, I try to like keep all my language in check, but kids out there, let's go earmuffs right now, because man, the PCAOB was back on their bullshit. God, man, it just makes me so mad. And truly, it's not the PCAOB that I'm all that mad at. It's just that people don't understand what the PCAOB inspection reports mean. So some background. The PCAOB released some inspection reports from a couple months ago, or at least they came back into the forefront of the news over this past week. And those inspection reports showed that audit deficiencies were on the rise. And people, I saw this several times. Several people interpreted this rise in deficiencies related to these audits as just like shitty audit quality. And I just want to be extremely clear. That is not what this means. It is just not. The PCAOB will fail you if you miss anything at all. So they expect 100% compliance. And so these reports, the fail rate is high, but that's not, it's higher than it's been, but that's not because of bad audit quality. Normally, and most of the time, it's because of like really challenging or complex situations where someone just missed a step or a consideration that the PCAOB thought that they should have. The most critical thing to think about related to this is that in these situations, and I did the research on this to try to like have a good idea, and I used the Big Four's reports as examples, right? Because they're the standard of PCAOB compliance, right? They're the standard of the accounting firm world, right? Like each of them had about 50 audits that were reviewed, and each of them had somewhere between like 20 and 30% in the fail rate. But you know something, Jay? Do you know how many audit opinions were adjusted out of these like 220 audits that were reviewed? There were
Oh,
three.
none.
There were three.
Wow.
And the three that were adjusted, they were adjusted only with respect to the internal controls over financial reporting. So the ICFR portion. So not the numbers. And so I think it's really, really important to understand the distinction of what that means. Because what that means is that the only thing that these auditors missed were related to some of the control situation. They probably should have highlighted a control issue in place at these companies. But most importantly, there were not material misstatements identified. There were no opinions changed about the face of those financial statements. And that particular thing is the thing that people think is happening. They think that the numbers are all fucked up, and they're just not. That's just not the case. And that's what I think is really important to clarify, is that, look, it's true. Like, there are audit deficiencies. Most of them, as you read them, are that someone did a test of controls. They didn't consider that they got a report from the client, and they didn't consider the completeness and accuracy of that report. And 99% of the time, that report came right from the system that they've audited in like 400 other ways. But in this particular way, they didn't document how that happened. And because of that, there is an audit deficiency. And that's fair, right? Because that report, in theory, could come from anywhere. It could be just a load of shit. Like, that's true. But at the same time, it's in the control area, and it didn't impact the financial numbers. It just didn't matter. And so I think it's really, really, really important to understand that those audit deficiency rates are actually almost always tied to increasing complexity in the way that these businesses and the programs that they utilize run. It's almost always associated with that. Some report came from some system that came from some other system that came from some system that no one ever sees, and somebody didn't double check that all of that math worked properly. Like, most of the time, that's the issue. It is not that there's $1 million of cash missing and the face of the financials is wrong. And most of the time, it's not even that and in fact, in the same thing that I've just talked about, it's not even that the notes are wrong. Like, everything is described properly. All of the information is included the way that it ought to be included. It's just that there's some layer of control or some area of control where someone may have not reviewed properly, or someone may have not asked the right question about where the report came from or something like that. And so, Jay, that was a lot. That's a lot. I don't know if I know I told you that this was coming. Did I live up to your expectations?
And so basically the gist of this is there were control issues, but no material misstatements.
So let's even narrow it down farther than that.
Okay.
Of the 220 audits that were reviewed, approximately 60 had audit deficiencies that are failures to the PCAOB. Those 60 are related to this reporting stuff that I'm talking about, right? Like, somebody got a report, didn't tie it out to something like that. Something that's like truly benign. Doesn't even matter. Three of the 220, three of them did issue the wrong opinion on their controls report. Gotcha. So that's true. And what that most in all three instances, actually, it was that the auditor should have identified a material weakness in the control environment because of the way that these reports were working and the way that they were being reviewed by people. All three of them, they were almost the exact same situation. 0 of those 220 had any type of financial statement number change. So there was no restatement with respect to the actual face of the financial statements themselves. Only those three, which is, again, 3 out of 200. That's a very, very, very small fail rate. And even then, like, it's really clearly there was, and all that really means, right? All that changing that opinion means is that there was the opportunity for a control failure to occur that the auditor didn't identify for investors. But the most important thing, again, for investors in the situation, is to understand that there's no number problem, right? That is the point of the audit, is to provide assurance related to the numbers, and then, of course, assurance related to the control environment. And they missed a couple spots, 3, that changed opinions. But that's it, though. That's like a 1%. That's a 1% fail rate, not like a 30% fail rate.
Right.
And so, even our boys at the fraud guy, that we talked about before, who was doing like audits with like basically nothing, and was just like, even his failure rate with the PCAOB, 100%. All of them failed. Totally. Or whatever this, I think it was, what, I can't even remember the name of, Boyers or whatever, right? Those guys, right? Whoever they were. But those guys, even those clowns that have since like shut down their business because they were doing audits so poorly, their financial statements weren't materially wrong. They had zero opinion changes, even though they had a 100% deficiency rate. And so again, I think that people see, oh, the PCAOB is saying that our audits are so deficient. But if you look at the detail and the information a little bit closer, what you'll see is you're still getting quality financial statement information. Like the financial statements themselves aren't wrong. There's just, the PCAOB wants you to do a lot of things, and they want you to document a lot of things. And especially as technology is getting more advanced and different systems are connecting to other systems in different ways, there becomes a lot of area where you have to explain how you're comfortable that information hasn't been manipulated. And sometimes you forget to, or you don't think to, because maybe you did it in another area and you just didn't connect the dots like that. You don't get that kind of information from these PCAOB reports, and it's very possible that they existed. So all that to say, financial statements aren't getting fucked up all the time. It's just not, that's not what's happening. And I think that that's the interpretation that people are making. And I just want to be very, very clear. That is wrong. /rant. I'm over. Woo! I do appreciate the applause track. All right, sure. So Jay, you're a CPA, right? You could issue this audit report if you wanted to.
Yeah, if I wanted to.
Do you? Yeah, if you wanted to, right? Like, you have the capability, right? So now that I've talked about this, now that you like, I'm very interested in your perspective on this, because I think that a lot of people, and particularly advisors, like, don't always understand. Even now, even though I've explained what's going on, they might not always understand what the situation is, right? And there's definitely some people who are like, "Ooh, we should actually hold auditors to like a 100% compliance standard, because that's kind of what we expect from them." Which I think is maybe a little bit aggressive, but at the same time, like, I kind of understand. So I'm interested in your perspective and thoughts on this, of like, how, now that you understand a little, now that I've given you more context, like, does this change your, well, I mean, let me ask two questions. First, what was your opinion about this in the first place? Like, how did you feel about PCAOB deficiencies being on the rise? And then my second question is, now that you have this extra information, did that change your opinion, or do you feel any differently about it? Or like, tell me your thoughts on this.
Knowing that there was zero material misstatement, it almost, makes that meaningless. That
right, and that's kind of what I feel too, right? And that's my whole point from the very beginning. Now, again, I only looked at the big four, but again, they made up like 220 of the like 300 reports that were reviewed. So this is It's a big chunk. It's very possible.
Put that out and say that the board that is reviewing the audit firms is saying that this is on the rise. It makes you think that there are problems in the audits, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, and like you said, right? People connect that without really thinking about it. You connect that to the numbers. You just assume that an audit deficiency means the numbers were wrong somewhere. And that's the thing that puts me on a soapbox, because that's just not what it means. For sure. And what I will say, and like I said, in defense of the PCAOB, there are rules around this. They're not doing the wrong thing, but the thing that I think people don't fully connect, like the reason why that matters, right? The reason why getting a report from a client that you don't tie out to some other like source document, the reason why that matters is because if there is a manipulation in that data along the way, and you use it to do some evaluation of like revenue or some other area where you're doing test work with bad data, it's the same. It's your age-old story of garbage in, garbage out. And so if you haven't done that validation to some degree, you leave yourself open to potentially having a misstatement. Right. But none of them did. Right. And again, I think none of them likely did, because they probably did some system-related validation elsewhere. Right. And again, just never really connected the dots that this particular report came from that system that we validated doing X, Y, and Z. And so, Yeah, and so if you read through them and you like truly go down and read through, like some of them are kind of like you wait, that's the reason that we're worried about this. And then some of them are maybe a little more. I do think that that's the most important thing. But for real, I'm gonna backslash rant now. I think I'm fully heated. Now I'm gonna have to drink some more beer here to cool off.
Yeah.
So that's accounting related news. I also saw a few things in e-commerce related news that I thought were extremely interesting. The first one is that Amazon, our good friends at Amazon, are allowing sellers to ditch physical returns. And Jay, we talked a little bit about this offline, but
Yeah.
um, but that becomes really valuable, not just for the person who like doesn't have to worry about a return process, right? The e-commerce vendor, but it's also valuable for Amazon because they're paying for all that shipping and doing all of these other things, and so allowing the buyer to just keep the product and throw it away or whatever the issue is, right? Like depending on whatever it
Yeah.
is a really interesting development. The first thing that I thought about, given my audit brain, was like, how are people going to manipulate this? Um, and I'm sure that there's somebody out there that's going to do it. But Jay, I'm interested in your thoughts. Like I said, we talked about this very briefly before, but what do you think about this change that Amazon's going through? Do you like it?
I if I was a
I don't
seller, I
care.
probably would, because
Yeah,
you ship something with a very low value to a customer, and then they're like, "Hey, I want to return it." It's going to cost probably more than the product to return it, and then
yeah,
you also got to pay the handling from Amazon on it, and there's so many other costs that are involved down
I
the
know.
line that at that point you're spending more and you're losing more money just to handle a return. So
Yeah,
it makes sense. Just issue the refund and move on. And I can tell you, I've had a number of situations like that. You go through the app and it's like, good news. We've issued you a refund. You don't have to send this back. I'm like, all right. Because, sometimes it
amazing.
could take 5 minutes to make that return. Sometimes it can take a day and a half. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah. No kidding. No kidding. I also saw that Best Buy, who I definitely was thinking was maybe on the Bed Bath and Beyond style of heading toward out of business after a while, but they bought an AI powered delivery system, which sounds super super interesting. I don't know exactly what the use case for that thing is going to be, and I don't remember all of the details about it now. But I thought it was really interesting that that Best Buy was leaning into this opportunity to utilize AI in its delivery modules,
Yeah,
which I
but
think is super cool.
when you're selling, you know, 50% or less of what you were selling in the past, is it
Yeah.
worth the investment to make your
I
delivery
don't
more
know.
efficient? I don't know. I'm just
I don't.
saying. Yeah.
Maybe that's the idea. Maybe they're looking to bring the cost down on the delivery side so that they can increase the delivery portion of their business, move more toward that e-commerce model. I would not be shocked by that.
Or maybe they're
And I'm
looking to
sure
pivot completely and just get into maybe fast food delivery. I don't know.
maybe maybe
You never
maybe
know.
maybe they're going to use that somewhere else, like AWS behind the scenes or something. That's definitely possible. I don't know a lot about it, like I said, but I just think
Yeah.
it's interesting anytime I see that kind of, especially in the delivery space. And speaking
I'm
of,
interested to see more
uh,
for sure.
yeah, and speaking of, I saw that a company, and I think they're out of California, a company called Vayu Robotics, debuted a non-lidar self-driving robot delivery car. And so lidar is the thing that I think most use. And again, I didn't write down what lidar means, and now I don't remember. But it's like the detection system that
Hmm.
allows the car to know like kind of what's going on, where it is. But and it's basically in all like self-driving vehicles right now. Like almost all of them use this lidar system. But this company is coming up with a alternative to that, which I think is super super interesting from a like pushing forward in that automation space, and particularly because this one is related to self-driving delivery cars, which I think will be like super valuable in the near future. Um, it was really neat to see that there's a couple alternatives out there, and this company also has some big contracts. It looks like with some with some vendors, maybe Best Buy, probably not Best Buy, but maybe, to develop some of these delivery robots for them, and get them out on the streets and start delivering stuff for these folks. The technology that they use instead of lidar is something that kind of just allows it to bump off things a little more easily or something. I didn't quite understand exactly how it works. That's probably a really, really bad explanation.
That doesn't sound
But
good.
all that, no, it doesn't sound good. But it's like very soft padded, so that if it, I don't know. It's also been a couple sleeps since I read the article. So clearly you can see that it was really like top of mind for me. Um, but I do think it's interesting anytime that you introduce new tech, and particularly in autonomous driving. I think it has an opportunity to be like world changing, truly. And so I'll definitely be interested to see what in 10 years, if we're talking about Vayu as the pets.com, or if we're talking about Vayu as like Nvidia, where they just changed the game and have made like huge strides. So we will see in the future. I feel like a lot of the things that we talk about I don't know what the results are today, but we'll know what the results are one day. And one final point of news with respect to that is dynamic pricing. It's coming. It's on the way. People are doing it more. This has been in the news a little bit recently, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Jay, have you ever had an experience with dynamic pricing? Or for the listeners out there, do you want to like describe dynamic pricing? Or
Well, I mean, I've had dynamic pricing on Uber. The
oh
surge
yeah,
pricing. You know,
sure.
$95 ride home.
Yeah, that used to be like 12.
$30. Yeah.
Yeah, huh.
And
Yeah,
basically,
familiar with that.
they're at capacity. They're surging.
Uh-huh.
So the price goes up based on the demand. And I've
Yeah.
seen this in the news recently, as far as like fast food restaurants.
Oh, interesting. The time I saw it in the news was related to Kroger.
Really?
Um, Yeah, and I've actually seen, because here in DFW, one of the Whole Foods, so good old Amazon again, our friend, our good friends at Amazon, they had a dynamic pricing model there at Whole Foods. So it wasn't surprising for me to see that Kroger had adopted this as a thing, but there was so much pushback that I think they may have even just decided to scrap it for now because of the level of pushback that they were receiving. But at the same time, like I do think it's very. I think I especially and I personally am a like bad reference for this, but at the same time, like a very good one, in that the amount of effort that it takes to change the stupid price tags at the grocery store is outside of control. So if you imagine like how many UPCs there are in the grocery, and every
Oh
time,
yeah.
like every couple weeks, you're like changing the price on like 45 of them. I think of dynamic pricing like that is kind of happening already, right? Their items are going on sale, items are changing. Like dynamic pricing just makes it happen more rapidly, and more efficiently. And so I don't. While I'm sure that this is true, that to some degree this allows a company like Kroger or Whole Foods to exploit the market. Like I don't think that's the intention. I honestly think the intention of this is to cut a couple labor costs, because there is somebody who goes around for 40 to 50 hours a week, maybe two people, changing price tags in a store. And when you stick a little like e-label on there that allows you to change the price quickly, efficiently, and without all of that effort, like that's hugely valuable to each store location. And if you think about a thing like a grocery store with a very low margin, every single cost that you can cut like that can go a long way, even though it's
For
just a
sure.
small change. And it also allows you to like not have the fuck ups of like, oh well, man, the thing said it was like this price, but it's ringing up this price. Like, what is going on here? You guys are killing me. Like, it helps you to avoid that, because it allows for that consistency between what you see on the shelf and what you pay at the register, and you don't have to deal with all of the shenanigans that go around with that too. So like I like I said, you got a lot of pushback of like, oh, you're going to exploit people, you're going to cheat the system, and all this, and I just don't think that's the intention. Um, Like I get why people have that cynic view, but at the same time, like, nah, they're trying to make it easier for everybody so that they can put the sale price like right there without having to go through a bunch of like effort to like put a sale tag on it and rip the sale tag off at the end of the week when the sale's over. Like it's actually just a labor issue that the technology is finally kind of caught up to.
Yeah. I like to
That's
see
what I
that,
think, at least in the
yeah.
grocery. But that being said, who knows? Who knows? Maybe Kroger was trying to take over the world by charging $1 extra. Yeah, who knows on everything? It could be. Maybe maybe on the 15th and the 31st or whatever, they'd be jacking the prices up because people are getting paychecks. Like,
Yeah,
sure, maybe, but I bet not. I bet that wasn't the intention. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see how dynamic pricing continues to evolve. Obviously, it's out there already, and I think that again, if you think about even like in an e-commerce model, your pricing like is relatively dynamic. Like you can change the price on your website pretty immediately, and that now your pricing changed, and so that dynamic pricing can be it allows you to be responsive to things like costing pressure or market pressures or whatever it might be. And so I think dynamic pricing is truly going to be a thing of the future where you kind of have a base cost and then like in certain situations you'll see fluctuations in a dynamic way. So people are doing it more just in time, but I think dynamic pricing kind of was already there. It doesn't feel like anything new to me. Jay, it's Thursday, which means it's maybe not time for like a Friday boulet. But are you watering today? Are you something else? What you got going on?
Yeah, I'm watering today. I'm
Yeah,
actually hopping in the cars when we're done here heading out. So
check it out, Jay. Zero inventory plus right there on the cup. I was so excited to find this on the first day of Xerocon. Today, I thought it was actually very relevant. I don't do this on purpose. I don't go like buy the beers to match up with our themes.
right.
But today I am drinking Escape, which Xerocon was like an escape from real life.
There you go.
Kind of like maybe I'm just trying to connect things to the first ones in the door. And since I'm almost done with the Escape, we're gonna go Hazer Tag after that. So those will be fun. That's from Odell Brewing. This one is the one of the last sets from the beer drop thing that I was utilizing. So this is
wow.
Offshoot Beer Company. I have no idea where they are from.
Cool.
California. So Escape in California with the octopus on there. Nice and a good West Coast IPA. Nice and hoppy. But actually, I like this one pretty well. So, I am doing that today because I'm not going to get to do it tomorrow with you, Jay. So I do enjoy my beer, and I'm doing it on Thursday. We're going in. I have alluded to it. We've talked about it several times. The purpose of our show today is to talk back over last week, and that starts with a summary. So, Jay, what I'd love to hear you do is tell me about your Xerocon. How did it go? Did you get to do what you wanted? What kind of things went on for you? How was it for you?
It was a great week in Nashville, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Got there early. I had a tech check for my session. I was on a panel where we were actually talking about Zero Inventory Plus, and got that done. And then the festivities began. I mean, yeah, that's it right there.
On the cup. On the cup.
And I believe on Tuesday night that we had at least 4 different events on our calendar at that point, and
I definitely went to at least 4 different places.
Oh,
so that feels right.
I was at more than 4 places, but yeah, I actually missed one of my.
You had 4 RSVPs.
Yes, but
that's good. That's good.
Jumped in the next morning, and my intention was to take in the sessions I could, and the other thing that I was really looking forward to doing was just talking to attendees and sponsors and some zeros, and I did that. I had 14 streams that came out of the 2 days on one of my channels, so it was a lot of fun doing that. Got to hang out with my friends at A2X in their booth. And
thanks, Jeff, Katie. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Jeff and Jamie and Katie there for allowing me to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Talked to just about every app partner in the place. Yeah, it was busy. It was busy,
Yeah,
busy.
it was a so you talked to me, and so if folks want, you can go listen to our conversation. It was maybe 4 minutes long. It's over on the other channel. I'm sure at some point here, we'll repost it over on this one. But this was my first conference, and so I got to talk to Jay as part of that about that experience. And so I'm not going to rehash a lot of that here because it was just more of the same. But go watch that video. It was you got to see me in the moment talk about how this moment was feeling to me, which was the idea of the blog that I ended up not doing, and I also talk in that moment about why I did not do the vlog. So Jay, what else? What other things did you? This is a question that I asked a lot of people that were there because this was the first conference that I had gone to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was your intention? What did you want out of Xerocon? And then I will ask a follow up question, and you know what it is. Once you tell us that.
Well, I mean, for me, going to Xerocon it's something I look forward to since I've been to the first one back in
Yeah.
2013. And some of it was catching up with old friends I haven't seen, meeting new people. I mean, I got to do everything I wanted to do while I was there.
That's
So
awesome.
I cannot complain about that one bit. The energy was there. The room was electric. We'll talk in a minute about the product announcements they had.
Yeah.
We've had a few Xerocons where, hey, this is coming. Not quite yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
And this time, hey, it's out. It's in beta. It'll be out before the end of the year. So we had
That's awesome.
a lot of things drop this year.
Great.
So
No, I love that.
really
I
excited.
love that. Obviously, I didn't really know what to expect, and so my goal was to meet people and learn things, and that's very easy to do in an environment like that. So so I did, and I enjoyed it. Jay, there were lots of folks that talked, including Liz,
Yeah.
our CEO. She was a keynote speaker on the second day. Did you? How many of those did you catch? How many of the speakers did you catch?
I caught three of those.
Three of the headliners, or
Yeah,
three just generally, because
three of
there
the
were lots of
headliners.
sessions. All right, three of the headliners. And so, what were your takeaways? Who did you hear, and what did you take away?
So the opening keynote, you know, it, the biggest thing I paid attention to was the product keynote. I mean, honestly,
Sure.
that's what I was there
Yeah.
for. But Liz did a great job, and I can't remember the AI guy that was before her. He
The,
did
the
a
open AI
great job
guy.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
the guy from OpenAI, and
Yeah. Luke. What was it? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna Google it for you, Jay. Go on.
yeah, I can't remember his name. But
Go
he
on.
dropped a few nuggets. I can't remember them at the moment, but
Yeah.
it was pertinent to what we do, and it might have eased your mind about AI a little bit. Is what it was
Yeah.
more about,
Well, and so I listened to a lot of the single sessions as well, because I think there were four or five different sets of those.
Right,
The one with Inventory Plus that you were on, I went and listened to you talk about that,
right.
and then I listened to Ashley Francis uh, talk about some of her thoughts around AI, and she
Mm-hmm.
was part of a little panel that everybody talked about that. And then I listened to Jason Stats talk about AI and some of the implementation of that, specifically as it comes to like a channel and talking about those types of things. And so
Right.
AI was definitely there, and it was talked about a lot. And I think there's a reason why, but the message was very clear that that for the majority of us, and I can't remember who said it, and I don't know if it was Jason or if it was someone else, or if it was the person who was with Jason, the zero person who was leading that session. But they said AI is not going to take your jobs. AI is not going to take accountants' jobs. Accountants who use AI are going to take the jobs of accountants that do not. because AI is just going to supplement the work that you do and allow it to be more effective and easier and more
Right.
streamlined, and so it's just going to improve the quality of your life. And I think that was, and I still have, my Google has failed, but I still haven't found the OpenAI guy. But that was his message as well. Is for accountants, it's not going to steal your work. It's going to supplement your work. It's going to supplement your life as well, because the applications of AI are not just in accounting and business. They are in healthcare. They are in autonomous vehicle life, right? Like there's so many areas, and there's probably some that we've never even like thought about or heard about or even considered. And that was also his message: is like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know that we're in the very, very beginning stages of the implementation of this technology. And so because of that, we don't know what's going to happen and we don't know where it's going to go, but we do know that it's going somewhere. And we do know that it's going to be something that you can utilize to be better at what you do right now. Um, and for me, that was actually one of the biggest takeaways from a messaging perspective, is that um, there are lots of applications of technology that, if you're thoughtful about them, can be really powerful to both you, your business, and your life in general. So definitely be thoughtful of that. I I did a very, very classic thing for a first time conferencer. That first night, um, my phone has had some trouble charging. I have to plug the plug into the phone like perfectly for it to charge right now. And I was in a new place, and I did not do that. So during the night, that first night, my phone died. And so I woke up about 15 minutes before the opening keynote because I was out very late. Um, and so I missed whoever the first person was, but I did make it in time to hear all of the cool things that Xero is doing. And so Jay, I know you put together a list, and I could like speculate and just guess on some things that were on there. I know we've got Xero Inventory Plus, we've got all the cool mobile functionality, we got some like other picture taking stuff, like some ways that you could like and the new AI thing. Is that a thing that we can talk about, Jay? I assume so. If it was at Xerocon, it's yeah, Jax. Yeah, so Jax was pretty cool sounding. Got to see Jax and whatever Jax is up to. So Jax is an AI partner that's like a chatbot that allows you to execute transactions, which was something I hadn't really ever thought about in the form of AI. And so,
Yeah.
so Jay, why don't you run down the product announcements? We can talk about them one by one.
Yeah, awesome. So let's start with Jax right there, which stands for
Yeah,
Just Ask Zero. So
yeah,
basically, you could type out or ask Jax questions about your zero, and you know it will respond. It will give you verbal response, or it will actually go into Zero and create an invoice and send it for you. So it's going to be just
whatever
that
you ask it to
smart,
do.
and that actually is it is in beta. That should
Yeah,
be out, I think, fourth quarter.
yeah. I
So
don't remember exactly the
that's
timeline,
like
but
one of the higher tech things. I'm looking forward to it because we
yeah,
can train our clients to go in and ask those things that they've been asking us for, and that way they can get that quicker. And then once we start learning things that they're asking about, or we training them to do it, it
right.
frees us up to have different types of conversations with our clients. So
Yep.
we're not
Yeah.
working in the transactions with them. They have Jacks to do that themselves, and we can actually spend the time doing, advisory with them. So
Right.
that's a great
Well,
thing.
and the way that I saw it too, and the way that I kind of thought about it was particularly in small business, right? You
Yeah.
can, if and especially in a small business that's more like service but on the spot base, so like HVAC, that kind of thing,
Yep.
where
Yep.
you're like at somebody's house. You can be like, hey Jax, I'm here with the so and so, and I need an invoice for this amount of money because they did this and this. Can you add these products to it? Send me an invoice and
Yep.
email it to this person so that they can basically see the invoice or the quote or whatever,
Yep.
like on the spot, right in the accounting system. I mean, the applications and implications of something like that just are
Yeah,
super exciting. So
basically by
really
doing
cool.
that, it gets you paid faster because
Yeah,
you're delivering that invoice
yeah. You don't have to go back to
basically,
the
or
office and like do
very
whatever
simply
right there. Yeah,
creating it and then you're delivering it there. They get it on
yeah.
their phone, and actually, Zero's actually putting texting options in the billing options on the
Feature.
invoices as well. Instead of having to export it, copy that link out into your texting app, it'll actually go directly out of Zero that way, which it'll save a step, so that's great. But
Yeah,
either way, you put it on the phone, and the end customer can pay it with Apple or Google Pay with less stress,
right there.
and you get paid
Yeah,
faster. So that's what it's about.
yeah. Yeah, and so that's just one of the applications of Jax. I think there's going to be well more than that. And Jay, something that you said, it wasn't what you meant, but the way that you said it made me think about like also as we and our clients use Jax more frequently, we'll start to understand people's pain points. Like we'll have a resource set of data where we can either like develop new techniques or strategies or ways to educate people about these problems that they're having or these processes that aren't functioning the way that you want to number one, like make Zero a better product generally, to understand which features need to be next so that they're just easier, right? And so I didn't think about like all the data that you can mine from a like a very basic version of an AI bot, but
Yeah,
uh, pretty cool, and definitely seeing it like in beta practice was fancy. Jay, did we sign up for the beta trial?
I definitely did. Yes,
Yeah, great.
I signed
Thanks
up
for
for
that.
all of the betas that are out there.
Yeah, all right. And so Jax was an awesome one. You also mentioned the mobile activity. What other
Yeah, so there was a
features?
lot of activity around bank feeds. So,
Okay.
US
Oh
bank
yeah, I
feeds has
remember that.
been a definite priority for Zero. And
Yeah,
in the last year or so, they've gone from 20 direct feeds to over 700 direct feeds. And while they're
it's a big
doing
change.
that, yeah, it's going to make a huge difference. But while they're doing that, they're also working on being proactive and throwing a bank feed monitoring platform out there so that if something happens, it will be able to alert the end user or the accountant, us, that hey, there's a
Yeah.
problem with your bank feed. So it's going to take that to the next step. Uh, and along those same lines, they've made some changes to the bank rec process. The
Okay.
bank rec platform now has the ability to uh, record a bank reconciliation by period and save it.
Yeah.
So, in Zero before, you had to print off your reconciliation and store it. Now it's right there in the reconciliation. You can see the period, and you can
It's
then
I
reprint the
I heard
reports.
this as this was announced, and it seems like such a small thing.
Yeah.
But I remember when I told the people that I was working with at the prior firm that I was working with that I was leaving and I was going to a company that was mostly focused on Zero. That was their complaint, and so it is kind of funny to like see that go full circle to be like, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't as ridiculous of a
Yeah.
complaint as I kind of thought in the moment, but
Well, it, I've been using Zero since 2012, and
hmm,
I did not see a problem with it. And because
right,
you produce your bank rec, you save your reports. The other change that they've also made is you will now enter your bank statement ending balance, and it will then show you the variance. So
yeah,
when I did it, I didn't see the need for that because I can look at the bank statement, I can look at the ending statement balance. They're the same number. I print my statement, I put my print my report, put my statement with it.
yeah.
It's filed. I checked it off my checklist. I know it's done. So
Well,
it's
I,
change, and accountants are adverse to change.
well, and so it's interesting because I do think that the reason why this was not as big a deal to you as it may have been to someone else is because you've made some decisions to be on the like open end of or front end of like
Sure.
technological stuff. Your clients aren't like writing hundreds and hundreds of paper checks. Like you just weren't about that life,
Well, somewhere.
and so you don't have. Well, you just end up with less reconciling items
Yeah,
when you do that, right?
sure.
When you're like making in time payments and not having to worry about like 45 outstanding checks at the end of every month,
Right.
like it does make the reconciliation process a lot easier.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I do like.
one of my early clients would print all their checks
Oh
and
my
then hold
word!
them for 3 or 4 weeks. So that was an issue for a while. So yeah,
Yikes!
yeah,
Yikes!
yeah.
Yikes! Well,
Good stuff.
their bank reconciliations may be a little bit easier now with
Yeah.
this improved bank reconciliation
And the
functionality. What else? What
other
else came up,
side
Jay?
of that reconciliation and the bank feeds, there's
Uh,
now a PDF statement import that will work for any bank statement, not just the ones that was built for in the past. So if
yeah,
there happens to be an issue with the bank feed, or you are still working with a bank that does not have a feed, this statement
yeah.
import will take care of that. So they've done that, and
and
yeah,
and so I want to just highlight because it's the thing that has been on my mind as people are talking about AI and stuff. That OCR recognition that underlies this functionality is a utilization of AI,
yeah,
and so it is AI like really impacting your life. Like people have thought a lot about generative AI, where AI is like starting to respond to you as AI. But like other things like this have been happening for a long time. People have been using
yeah,
OCR for a long time to be able to take documents and pull the important data from them. So like AI is already out there and doing cool stuff and helpful stuff, and now it's doing even more.
yeah.
So sorry, Jay, continue. What else,
Oh
what
no.
other cool
So
stuff?
moving over to the payment side, so Bill.com is about to be embedded into Zero, so you won't have to go out to Bill.com to do your vendor payments. So that's a good thing. Kind of simplify that. I already
Yeah.
talked about the SMS invoicing that's happening. There's
Uh-huh.
going to be a buy now pay later option from Stripe that you can apply for your clients. And then the other
Like
one
Klarna, like
that's really cool is
Klarna for invoices.
tap to pay. So the only client I've ever had move off of Zero back to QBO that when I was running my firm did it because they didn't have a way to take credit cards in their office. So now we have tap to pay. So you create the invoice, tap it on the device, and payments processed. I
Boom.
kind of saw a little bit in play there at Xerocon, but ultimately, uh, it's going to be
Yeah.
a game changer.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then Jay, you haven't mentioned it, but like it's right here on the cup. Like it's ready to go now.
Saving the best for last.
Oh, there we
So,
go. Zero
and
inventory plus.
I say it's the best because it is the most anticipated release for me
Mm.
because I was uh, onboarding onto the Locate partner program when Zero made the purchase. And I've
Mm.
been along the ride ever since, helping shape this product with Zero and their product teams. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Zero Inventory Plus is Zero's answer for pretty much primarily startup e-commerce businesses. They're
Yeah.
somewhere in that 1,500 order a month range. It works with Amazon fulfillment by Amazon, not merchant fulfilled yet, and Shopify POS. So any of those orders will sync on in there. You can process them and fulfill them. Zero Inventory Plus or Zip integrates with Shippo. So if you want to do all of your fulfillment, it will help you find the best prices on carriers and be able to send that on out. And the other thing, they announced the Amazon integration live on stage that day, and I was actually
Yeah.
sitting next to the gentleman from the Amazon department that helped make that happen. So it was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this, and it's a great tool for those introductory or startup e-commerce clients, and
Right.
gets them out of the spreadsheets. It helps give them a good
Huge.
cogs, and understand what your costs are for your e-commerce business. And
Yeah.
it's there are other things on the roadmap. It's still coming, and you know, I use this for my daughter's dance studio's recital. We ran their weekend on it, and their recital
Love
weekend
it.
for fundraising,
Yep.
and it worked flawlessly. I loved it. So looking forward to deploying this with some clients now that that's readily available. So
Yeah. No, I love that. We're being there live for the release of a bunch of different features was really neat. Like I really
yeah,
enjoyed that. And Jay, I know like this particular week we both have things going on later this afternoon, so we can't talk more about all the cool people we met and
right,
all their cool products. But maybe that works great because we'll just talk about them next week. So this
sure.
week will be a Zero week, and next week will be a partner week.
Yeah, there you go.
But Jay, you have big things happening this weekend, and so
Yes.
I want to make sure that you're able to get onto your big things. So why don't you tell the people? Tell the people, Jay, what's going on?
Yeah, we're taking my daughter Abby to college tomorrow. So yeah, lots of
Amazing.
transitions going on.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. I have a hard enough time kind of like leaving my daughter at daycare every day. Um,
yeah,
so like I can't really imagine the going to college part. Do you like is it how real is it? I know it's happening tomorrow, but is it like really
it's
real
getting
now?
real. I mean, it's getting
It's
there.
getting real. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces
Yep.
right now. We got a whole room
Uh
of the
huh.
house that's being loaded up with stuff to load in the cars, and
Yeah.
she had a flat tire. I had to fix that today.
Oh
So
man.
I won't be
Yeah.
there all the time to do those things.
The good news, and I learned this myself from when I went to college, Jay. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of comfort. Is that you still get that phone call, even to this day. If I like have something weird like that, I'm 40, and I still call my dad when I'm like,
Yeah,
hey, how do I manage X, Y, or Z thing that should be really
yeah,
easy and I should know how to do, but I just don't.
for sure.
So like it keeps happening. Like
Yeah,
that doesn't go away. Um, but
yeah,
uh,
and she's
but
only
that's so
like 2
exciting.
hours away, so
Yeah, that's great. Like that's kind
she's
of the perfect
close enough
distance.
yet too far. So
Yeah, no, it's the perfect distance. You can
yeah,
drive there if you have to, right? And
hmm
but it's far enough away that you wouldn't want to go every day or whatever, right? Like it's just
exactly.
too far for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's so that's lovely. Um, and I'm excited for both her and you because those are big changes for the both of you.
yeah,
Um,
and for my
and
wife. I mean, yeah, she's dealing with some stuff
well,
over there
yes, of
right
course,
now. So yeah,
right.
so
I
yeah.
assume that that's kind of taking your whole weekend, so I
Oh,
can't
for
imagine you have
sure.
much else
Yeah,
going on. Yeah, I can't
yeah,
imagine. I tomorrow or not tomorrow, Saturday, but I thought it was Friday because they were doing this, so confusion.
yeah.
Um, Saturday is I actually have two fantasy football drafts on Saturday, so it is go time for fantasy football. I will be going to catch up to my friends in the Denton area, so that's where I went to school. And I am in a fantasy football league with some guys up there that if I remember right, if I saw right, I think this is maybe the 15th year or something, 17th year, something like that. Like we've been doing this for a long time
Yeah.
together now. And it's the same group of guys. We've had a really, really low level of turnover. And so I'm really excited to go connect with them and to check back in with them, see what they're doing, and draft a better football team than them.
Yeah,
Fingers
there you
crossed.
go.
So we'll see how that part goes. That's always a little bit of a challenge. Um, but fantasy football is a fun thing, just like Xerocon. So here's a connection piece for you, to bring together old friends, right?
Yep, for
um,
sure.
to take folks from all over the place to get them all back together in the same place to enjoy the things that they enjoy, and that'll be me this weekend. Outside of that, I don't have much going on. But Jay, do we have any big announcements coming up this next week? Anything that we should be looking out for or excited about? I know the Democratic nominee, Miss Kamala Harris. She's going to be talking a little tonight, so I'm gonna listen and see if we get any cool tax tips that we need to
That's all
talk
I can
about.
think of. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, we shall see there. But
and we will.
the only tax tip she did throw out was possibly matching Trump's thoughts
Yeah,
on
tip deal.
tipping. So
Yeah, yeah, which we'll see. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit. Like, there's pros and cons related to that.
for sure.
And I think the easiest thing to do would just be to be like, well, that minimum wage thing around servers. Let's just like cut that out and just
Exactly.
make minimum wage for servers a little higher,
Exactly.
and then it kind of resolves itself. Well, wonderful, Jay. I know it will be a bittersweet weekend for you, and
For sure.
so I'll be so excited to talk about it a little bit next week to get the feelings that I'll get to enjoy in 2040 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm going through the exact same process. But I'm excited for Abby and can't wait to hear about how this process goes for the whole Kimmelman family.
No, for sure.
And then again, if you haven't already, go watch the video where I talked to Jay about my feelings from Xerocon. Next week, be on the lookout for us to probably talk about all the partners that we talked to, because there, like Jay mentioned, he talked to basically every single person who was there, and there are loads. Yeah, there are loads and loads of cool apps out there that are probably worth highlighting for the accountants watching, and then some like A2X and others that in Ramp and Dext and all of these kind of people that are probably worth highlighting for business owners out there. So, so there's a lot of things that I'm sure we can talk about with respect to that, but we definitely don't have the time to do it today. So thank you everyone out there for following along, for watching, or for listening back. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on the next one. See you next week.
Hey, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.